escaped prisoners.
Everyone.
Thieves, bandits, fighters and brawlers.
Desperate men.
Desperate as you'll ever see.
Good. Those are the kind of men I need.
You'll need.
See, these men follow no man but me. And I follow no man at all.
Would you follow a king?
A king?
In December 1983, Krull hit the silver screen in UK cinemas, having been released 5 months earlier in July in the USA. It was a critical and box office failure, only earning $16.5 million domestically at the box office in America, costing a reported budget of $30 million, which made it one of the most expensive movies at the time. Krull was financed by Columbia Pictures, whose president Frank Price had a desire to tap into the fantasy movie genre to capitalise on the trend at the time. He tasked producer Ron Silverman to head up the project. Pre-production started as early as 1980, and the working title originally was The Dragons of Krull, which is rumoured to be based around the Dungeons & Dragons board game. However, no official licence was gained from TSR, the game's manufacturer. After the box office failure of Disney's Dragon Slayer in 1981, it was decided to change the movie's antagonist to an alien creature. This resulted in the dragon being dropped from the title. Summer Holidays director Peter Yates took on the movie because he was fascinated by the idea of directing an effects-heavy fantasy movie, as the opportunities were rare at the time. Peter is probably best regarded for directing episodes of The Saint, starring the late Roger Moore, and the Steve McQueen movie Bullitt. Peter also directed The Deep, based on the novel by George scribe Peter Benchley. The plot of Krull is based on the planet of the same name, where the heir to the throne, Prince Colwyn, is preparing to marry Princess Nyssa, a marriage to bring peace between two factions of the planet's futuristic medieval society that has been invaded by an alien simply known as the Beast, whose horde of slayers are causing havoc across the lands. However, during the ceremony, the castle is attacked by the slayers, the stormtroopers of the Beast. Princess Nyssa is captured and held captive in the Beast's daily moving fortress, the location forever different, causing issues for a rescue mission. Colwyn is assisted by the wise sage Aenir, the Old One, who introduces him to the mystical weapon the Glaive, and Colwyn enlists a band of thieves, bandits, fighters and brawlers to help him find a way to rescue the princess. Krull was produced in the UK at Pinewood Studios and began filming on the 25th of January 1982, and was one of the biggest productions, taking up most of the sound stages, including the famous 007 soundstage, which is one of the biggest in the world. This housed the set for the swamps, whilst Italy doubled for the landscapes of the planet Krull. Ken Marshall plays Prince Colwyn. Ken was a renowned stage actor and was picked due to his appearance in the Marco Polo TV series in 1982. This was his first cinematic role. His career didn't really pick up due to the failure of the movie, and he disappeared from cinema screens. Ken didn't appear again until his role in Star Trek Deep Space Nine many years later, and to be fair, you wouldn't have recognised him. Lysette Anthony plays Princess Nyssa. This was Lysette's first movie role, and she was discovered as a model at an early age. She was deemed to be the face of the 80s by photographer David Bailey. After the failure of Krull, Lysette focused mainly around television roles in the UK. She starred in the BBC hit TV comedy 3 Up 2 Down, and in the Dark Shadows revival TV series in the States, as well as lower budget movies, and in the Mel Brooks spoof horror Dracula Dead and Loving It. Recently she starred in the UK Chester-based soap opera Hollyoaks. She was famously dubbed by an older American actress, Lindsay Krause, due to Columbia producers not believing a girl with an English accent would sell the movie in the States, as well as believing the part required a more mature voice.
My father says good fighters make bad husbands.
You too are a fighter.
Perhaps we should both be worried.
Your father's wrong.
Yes.
My father says that good fighters make bad husbands.
That depends.
On what?
do you expect a husband to follow you around? Jump every time you clap your hands.
Wouldn't you jump for me? No, of course not. You're a warrior.
Bernard Bresslaw plays Rel the Cyclops. Bernard was famous for his role as Sid James' sidekick in many of the Carry On movies, but did star in another sword and sorcery low-budget cult classic, Hawk the Slayer, in 1980 as Gord. Bernard was 6'7" tall, but still wore 6-inch heels to give Rel extra height. He also wore a prosthetic headpiece with a remote-controlled eye that limited his vision, causing issues during production. One of my favourite character actors, Freddie Jones, plays Aeneas. Freddie starred in many of my favourite movies growing up, from Firefox to The Elephant Man, and with his co-star Francesca Annis, who plays the widow of the Web, also appeared together in June in 1984. Freddie became a regular on the UK soap Emmerdale for many years as Sandy. He unfortunately passed away earlier this year. David Batley plays the bumbling sorcerer Ergo the Magnificent. Ergo is there for mainly comic release, where his transformation spells often backfire.
I am Ergo the Magnificent, short in stature, tall in power, narrow of purpose and wide of vision, and I do not travel with peasants and beggars. Goodbye.
David starred in many roles as different characters in British comedies. His other notable role in movies was in the Gene Wilder movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in 1971 as Mr. Turkentine. Alan Armstrong leads the band of escaped convicts that agree to help Coleman free Nyssa.
Well, you heard him. We are now an army.
Alan has appeared in many productions in the UK. He's best known for his role in the long-running BBC TV series New Tricks, but has also appeared in big screen hits like Patriot Games, Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, and The Mummy Returns. He leads a band of men played by some notable actors in their early roles, Liam Neeson and Robbie Coltrane. Like Lysette Anthony, Robbie Coltrane was also dubbed in post-production, which is rumoured to be by Lysette's two-up co-star and Boone actor Michael Alfitt. Former Grange Hill actor and future UK soap opera EastEnders star Todd Carty also stars as Oswin, and his future co-star on EastEnders Graham McGrath plays Titch. Based on the script by Stanford Sherman, who had penned episodes for the 60s Batman Adam West TV series, as well as the Clint Eastwood movie Any Which Way You Can. Production was less than smooth as the script was changed repeatedly, meaning many of the sets had to be redesigned, adding to the growing production costs. Ken Marshall trained hard boxing, fencing and horse riding under the leadership of industry stunt expert Vic Armstrong. However, as the design of the Slayers was changed and only produced 10 days before filming, many of the planned fight scenes had to be re-choreographed to allow for the last-minute changes. Vic Armstrong worked with 16 Clydesdale horses that trained for months in order to play the fire mares, who were trained on treadmills to achieve the flying and speed effects against blue screen. These were all flown to Italy to film the exterior location shots too. Cinematography was handled by Peter Szuzewski, that gives the movie a very familiar look, as he previously worked on The Empire Strikes Back with Irvin Kershner and George Lucas, and later became David Cronenberg's cinematographer of choice. The film was in a year of pre-production, which involved Sherman editing the script, Yates creating storyboards, Stephen B. Grimes and Derek Meddings coming up with the sets and special effects. Medding, who was previously known for his work on Superman and Superman 2, headed up the special effects department, whilst Chris Tucker was also originally on the project, but left due to creative differences and was replaced by Nick Malley, known as That Yoda Guy, because of his work on Yoda with Stuart Freeborn on The Empire Strikes Back, and also worked on Highlander and later on Life Force. His crew had to produce several effects 6 weeks before filming began. According to Nick, the special effects character of the Beast was performed by a female performer and was the first self-contained animatronic suit, providing not only facial movement but also lung, heart and body fluid movement, all without a single external cable. This was lost on screen as the Beast always appears out of focus or from a distance. Stop-motion animator Steve Archer, who previously worked on Clash of the Titans in 1981 with industry expert Ray Harryhausen, spent 2 weeks creating the first model of the spider, in the scene which was later discarded and changed. The design was very similar to an unused concept art by Ralph McQuarrie from Luke's visit to Dagobah in The Empire Strikes Back that wasn't used in the movie. Yates described making Krull as complicated and just so enormous. Yates hated working on the film so much that in the middle of shooting he took a vacation to the Caribbean. This held up the special effects department, and it's possibly the reason why some of the shots come across poorly. The score was composed by the late great James Horner and performed by the London Symphony Orchestra. The score features traditional swashbuckling fanfares. Horner's score is reminiscent of his earlier works, particularly Battle Beyond the Stars and Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, and later Star Trek III The Search for Spock. Some pieces of the music were reused for the ambience of the Disneyland attraction Space Mountain Mission 2. I love Horner's score. Sure, he reused a lot of cues, but the score is regarded as one of the strengths of the movie. I was at the right age to watch Krull on its release in December 1983. I was 11 at the time. I have a real nostalgic memory of this movie, and I was totally surprised to learn in later life that the movie bombed. It was incredibly popular with my mates at school, and we all loved the Glaive, which must be one of the coolest movie weapons on the silver screen. It's unfortunate that it was chronically underused in the script, and its fate was definitely underwhelming at the time, but it's gained a cult following and has appeared in games like Dark Sector and also appeared in Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One recently. Krull is unfairly criticised creatively due to the poor box office, calling it lazy, and the plot is nonsensical because it falls into the category of cashing in on the Star Wars bandwagon. It's true the story does borrow many points from the King Arthur or the Lord of the Rings format, the tropes of a band of misfits on a mission alongside a hero who is bestowed a mystical weapon by a wise sage or wizard to rescue a princess from an impenetrable fortress is nothing original, but the best entertainment does borrow from others. The movie is definitely a cinematic potpourri, and looking at it today, I think if you didn't grow up watching Krull, you'd be baffled by Krull's slower pacing and lack of world building and poor character development and narrative. Krell's character definitely has a better story arc, and this gives him some emotional weight to his character's fate. The same can't be said for some of the other characters. Their fates definitely feel less emotional, as they are so underdeveloped, and a little more than red shirts from Star Trek. Krull, however, is too busy trying to build a franchise here. So confident were the producers that Krull would be a hit that a Marvel comic tie-in was commissioned, and a game for the Atari system was also created. It's a shame it wasn't a hit, as it's a very contained story and stands up as a one-off film. I'd say the biggest flaw is that Krull being depicted as an underdeveloped alien world, and the mumbo-jumbo opening voiceover narrative read by Freddie Jones's character in a faux old English world style tries too hard to make the universe bigger than it needs to be.
This it was given me to know, that many worlds have been enslaved by the beast and his army, the Slayers. And this too was given me to know, that the beast would come to our world, the world of Krull, and his black fortress would be seen in the land. That the smoke of burning villages would darken the sky, and the cries of the dying echo through deserted valleys. But one thing I cannot know, whether the prophecy be true, that a girl of ancient name shall become queen, that she shall choose a king, and that together they shall rule our world, and that their son shall rule the galaxy.
It's fair to say Krull could easily be set on medieval Earth. As fire mares and transparent giant spiders aside, there are no themed alien or mystical creatures in this world. Ergo transforms into very normal creatures. No dragons here, simple tigers, geese and pigs. And as a kid I didn't really understand that Krull was a world, and this shows that the script was underdeveloped. Sure, the Slayers are terrible marksmen like their stormtrooper counterparts, but I like the fact that they are a housing for a smaller Dalek-like creature, and that death scream is iconic.
The beast has many weapons. This was one of them. A changeling.
Corwin walks around with the glaive for a good chunk of the movie and simply doesn't use it till the end, and even then it's gloriously underused, which is a great shame as it's so iconic. Despite this, Krull is still a wonderful nostalgic trip in the days of 80s fantasy cinema. If you look a little deeper, you can see a potentially great enjoyable movie. It's just flawed, but I adore the movie's British production sensibility and its great cast. It's made by some of the most talented British industry experts at the time that helped shape fantasy cinema, and James Horner's score is one of his best early works. I'd love to see a version where Lysette's voice isn't dubbed, and some of the obviously rushed optical work is tidied up. Krull did gain a following on home media and VHS, and you can watch it on Blu-ray. There is a special edition VHS Blu-ray available, and I'd recommend a repeat viewing if it's been a while, or if you developed a love of the 80s from Stranger Things or the wave of 80s cinematic nostalgia. I'm sure you'll find something to love. Krull is still one of my favourite childhood movies. Like I said, it isn't perfect, but for evoking nostalgia and Saturday afternoon trips to my local cinema, it's up there with the movies that tried to quench an 11-year-old boy's cinema when the original Star Wars saga concluded.
The second time you've saved my life. I am Ergo.
The Magnificent.
Thanks again for watching, and I really hope you enjoy my content. If you do, please leave me some comments below about your thoughts on Krull. And if you do like us, please give me a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to my channel. You can also take a look at my Patreon page if you want to donate to my channel to keep Matt's movie reviews going in the future. I look forward to sharing my thoughts on my next review, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care, thanks a lot.